G'day everyone, Paul Sebastiani here with another Blue Abroad VFL match report update. Unfortunately, the boys went down last weekend to Footscray there at Whitten Oval down at VU Oval. It was 11-11-77, Lord Nelson, as Rex Hunt would say, to 8-11-59. So now the boys sit at 2-2 in 9 spot by a percentage. So they're just outside of that final 8 spot by a few percentage points. But yeah, this disappointing loss on the weekend. And we'll get stuck straight into it. We'll go through the individuals as we usually do. So obviously the one that everyone is interested in coming into this weekend's game against Melbourne is TDK, Tom de Koning. Another successful return from that stress fracture in his back. He had 13 disposals, 35 hitouts with 5 marks. Had some big marks as well, some big contested marks, which is fantastic to see. Got through the game unscathed, which is great. And I think he will be a lock-in to come in this weekend. So he's definitely one that will be considered. The only real knock on his game is just trying to sort of get forward and hit the scoreboard, which is something that sort of Mark Pitnet and Casbolt have really struggled to do this year. So hopefully he can provide some genuine ruck craft and some forward nous coming into the side this weekend if he is chosen, which I think he will be. I think the side will. I think the selection committee will end up going with a double team on Max Gawn. So it'll be interesting to see where exactly Tom de Koning plays, whether it's predominantly up forward or predominantly in the ruck or a 50-50 split of both. But I'm certain he will get a game this weekend. And on an even more positive note, Corey Durden had his best game for the year. So a shout out to young Corey, who's sponsored by by Blue Abroad and by Terry. He didn't kick any goals, but he had 8 tackles from, I think it was 14 disposals in the end. But as I said on the previous video with him, his hunt and endeavour for not only the ball, but the man and his opponent. And geez, I'll tell you what, we are crying out for a guy to absolutely stick some tackles in that forward line and throughout half forward and even through the midfield as well, when the forwards sort of roll up and get involved with the midfielders during those sort of stoppages, from an AFL perspective. So I think his tackle pressure and his ability to put pressure on the opposition ball carrier is going to be enormous for us potentially in the second half of this year. So I would be keeping very close tabs on this young gentleman. Looks a fine prospect in the making at the moment. So really liked his game, really like his endeavour on the football. The goals will come if he continues to play the way he is. So Corey Durden, big green tick for him. He's trending really nicely, and given the fact that we picked him up later in the draft as well, is an even better sign. So he's very hungry to get a game. Then Matt Kennedy was probably the pick of the midfielders. I'd say 27 touches, a goal from 7 marks. He is going to be, I think, the very likely replacement for Jack Silvani. Kennedy can go forward, take a mark and kick a goal, and I think that's what he has over certain players that will come in from the reserves to replace Jack Silvani. So I think the match selection committee will go with, I think that looks to be the most similar like for like coming into the game against Melbourne this week. So look, we know what Matt Kennedy's going to provide. He's no superstar at AFL level. He will hopefully do a job if he comes into the side this weekend on Sunday. But again, his VFL form is tracking well. It has, every time he goes back down there, he's a real leader down at VFL level. But I think, as I've said previously as well, he's probably a 1.5 player, gun down in the reserves. But yeah, sort of bang average when he comes up to the elite level. So expect him to play this weekend. Dow and Setterfield were okay without being amazing. Setterfield 25 touches, 3 tackles. Dow 24 touches, 14 kicks and a tackle. Setterfield is playing, I think from what I saw, from what I gathered when I did see him, he was playing predominantly in the midfield. So I did see him line up on the wing a few times, but from what I saw, he was really getting involved in and under. So again, I'm no head coach or head of development or anything like that, but it's interesting that they tried to start him off as a winger at the beginning of this year. And now he's playing what seemed to be, I'd like to really see the numbers on this, a predominantly midfield role in the reserves. So whether or not they're going to revert back to that if he does come back into the side, we will have to wait and see, because I know obviously Nunes and Cottrell and the like are occupying that wing position in the AFL level. As for Paddy Dow, look, geez, what do you say about this kid? I think the finishing with him is what sort of hurts him. There was a moment where he sort of, I think it may have been the last quarter or maybe in the second quarter, where he burst out of the middle and he was flying through 50, and rather than just sort of lower the eyes and maybe look for a guy like Crocker, he sort of pinged for goal and went off track, and I think it may have registered a behind, or it may not have even registered a score. So yeah, obviously the finishing and the kicking is something that he needs to continue to work on. And look, I doubt that he will come in this week unless Williams pulls up sore. That would be the obvious replacement. But yeah, neither him or Setterfield are really bashing the door down at the moment. Nick Newman was okay, had 26 touches. He came off with, I think he had a sore elbow. I think he may have landed hard on his elbow and he had it taped up. I think it was the same elbow that he had the issue with last year. But he came back on and seemed fine. The only really weird with him, he had a couple of moments where I think he had 6 or 7 kicks that were smothered when he's taken clean possession of the football. So he's just got to, I understand being down at that level and being an AFL footballer, your mind works a lot quicker. But he just needed to just slow things down a little bit. So I think his mind was sort of going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and he wanted to move the ball quickly, but there's a time and a place when you have to do that. But he is trending, or he has come back well from that severe knee injury that he copped last year. I think it was the patella tendon that he tore. So look, he's tracking well. And you know, if one or two of these sort of half-back types was to drop off, he'd be an ample replacement. Tom Williamson, 25 touches. He defended well on the weekend, but geez, some of the skill errors and mistakes he made on the weekend were just really abysmal, to be honest. Yeah, not that of an AFL standard footballer. So I think he's going to remain in the VFL for sort of the next, I'd say probably 2 weeks, to be honest, because we do, which I'll make mention of later, we have a bye coming up this weekend. So can't see him coming into the side against Melbourne, but he is holding his form quite well. He just needs to start working on his skills and making sure he takes the right option and just get the simple things right. I know it's getting repetitive with a lot of these boys, but that's what you need to do as a halfback flanker and as a defender and as a footballer in general. Just get the simple things right, and that's something he needs to work on. Look, he's still very young. He showed a lot in his first handful of years as an AFL footballer. So, and as I said prior, these young fellas do sometimes go through these lulls, but yeah, he'd want to be getting a wriggle on if he wants to push back into the senior side. So probably a no for me coming into this weekend. Jack Carroll only had the 6 touches, was really unsighted, to be honest, coming back from that broken thumb. So look, I'd put an asterisk on him. Just keep an eye out for him in the next couple of weeks, because he did seem to move really well in a couple of the practice games, or the couple of the VFL practice games he played before hurting himself. So he's one just to keep an eye on for now. Josh Honey, geez, big impact player, this guy. When he gets ball in hand and he gets out the back, he's very, very, very exciting to watch. Only had the 11 touches, but the 2 goals he took were explosive. Daniel O'Keefe spoke last week about his ability to really beat anyone one-on-one, and when he rips out the back, and that was on display against the Bulldogs. So he could be a little smoky to come in this weekend if they wanted to add some zest into that forward line. And he's a big presence around the football as well. So yeah, his highlights package is always exciting when he gets ball in hand. So again, he's trending nicely. Whether or not he comes into the side this weekend, that he may. But yeah, I'd be keeping tabs on him as well. He looks like he's going very well at the moment. And Lockie O'Brien, his influence was down compared to the Essendon game the week prior. He only had the 15 disposals, and he will not come into the side this weekend, barring any late changes or injuries. So yeah, probably a little bit of a disappointing game for him. As I said, his influence was down, and he just, as an outside player, you really need to start winning more of the ball. He really needs to start doubling his output down in VFL level. I mean, 15 disposals in that grade, as a top draft pick, you if you go up to AFL level with that sort of form, that's probably going to halve, to be honest. So whether or not it's him just pulling his finger out and believing in himself, that's the next question. So Dow, Setterfield and O'Brien probably unlikely. The likely players to come in, and the other fellow I did miss, was Sam Ramsey, 18 touches and 4 tackles. He's averaging around about 18 touches a game, and he's getting involved with the tackle count too, which is what I really like. He's a slight fella, small fella, but he's not afraid to get into the thick of things and really have a tight tussle with his opposition. So he's a brave footballer too. He's always nice ball in hand, lovely left foot peg as well. So again, I think he'll be playing senior football at some time this year, because I think he will only improve with his output and his numbers, because last year, it was his first year at the club and you're getting into the swing of things. So like what I see with him at the moment too. The only thing I'd say with him is just to really, as a young fella, you got to keep your head in the game for a little bit longer. And as an outside player, he would just be working on trying to win more of his own football, sort of trying to get up into that 20 to 25 to 30 touch region, which he is quite capable of, I think. So from this week's perspective, heading into the Melbourne game, the only 3 players I would say that would be considered for selection are probably Tom De Koning and Matt Kennedy, purely because of the guys up at AFL level. It's a like for like in for TDK or someone like Levi, and Kennedy for someone like Silvani. Corey Durden and Josh Honey could be the smokies that do come in. So keep an eye out for those young 2 fellas. And that would probably about round it out. Now, of the VFL listed boys, I know everyone is interested in Ben Crocker. He was quiet for most of the day, but then he exploded late. We were down by 5 goals heading into 3-quarter time, and he popped up in the last quarter. He ended up with 4 goals and 17 touches for the day, and he's now equal first in the VFL goal scoring standings. So he could be considered come that mid-season draft. I know we probably need a midfielder like a Nathan Freeman type. He's averaging around 40 disposals a game for Frankston at the moment. So whether or not we take the punt with a guy like Freeman, who's had a checkered injury past, he's got groin issues as well. He's probably the player we need over a guy like Crocker. But Crocker is trending very well as a VFL listed player at the moment, and he would definitely be considered to come back into the or to come back up to AFL level if the club considered it, especially with Mitch McGovern breaking down yet again. So that is a wrap this week for the VFL report. We have a bye coming up this weekend, and then the following weekend on Sunday afternoon, I believe, we are playing Box Hill at Box Hill. So that'll be on Sunday afternoon, the day after the game against Hawthorn at the MCG. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have a little break with the VFL report this week. Much needed for me. And we'll be back to do it all again after the Hawthorn game. So like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter as well, at PaulSeb05. That's at PaulSeb05. And make sure you like and subscribe on the Blue Abroad YouTube page, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Bye for now, guys.